Diablo 4 just dropped its biggest twist since launch. We got the reveal of Lord of Hatred, a release date way sooner than I expected, the stealth drop of the Paladin in Season 11, and the promise of a second class also coming with the expansion. Then Last Epoch dropped a real roadmap on us this week, nice and juicy with details, laying out seasons, expansion, rogue reworks, and the skill sigil system that they've been secretly building for over a year. Path of Exile 2 dropped a new class, the Druid, a surprise new ascendancy for the Sorceress, a free weekend, its servers were collapsing under the strain of everyone logging in. Plus, Game Awards shockers, Netflix trying to buy Warner Brothers, Star Wars teasers, a new Total War game, a new Tomb Raider, a new D&D game from Montreal, and a sci-fi RPG that looks like it's trying to be the next Mass Effect, and might just be. Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and I dig into aRPG and gaming news so that you can spend more time playing games. Chapters below to skip ahead to different topics, but right before you move along folks, just a heads up that if you want to get your name on the Rhyker's Raiders 2025 t-shirt. The 2024 t-shirts are in the shop if you want to grab those. You have until the end of December. So even a $1 pledge will get your name. Let's get in focus here. Get your name on the shirt right here. So kicking off with Diablo news, we got this week the reveal of D4's next expansion, Lord of Hatred, that's Mephisto, plus the shadow drop of the Paladin if you pre-purchase Lord of Hatred, even at the base $40 version of the game. Lord of Hatred releases April 28th, so much sooner than I thought. I thought like summer at the earliest, maybe even up to a year from now. It's set on the Skovos Isles, home of the Amazons. I was not expecting that. I also didn't expect that it will include a second new class in addition to the Paladin, and they are not yet revealing what that class is. Now, the obvious choice is Amazon, but it's so obvious that I feel like they wouldn't keep it a mystery if it were the Amazon. We know we are meeting Amazons on the Skovos Isles. We also see the silhouette of the mystery class, and I don't know about you guys, but that does not read as an Amazon to me. Kinda looks sinister. I'm expecting it to be an entirely new class, kind of like the Spiritborn. We got the Paladin as a crowd-pleasing nostalgia class, and then we got something new as well. From the silhouette, it kind of looks like the class is not even holding a weapon. So maybe it could be a witch. We do have witches in Diablo. The silhouette also kind of looks like a Warcraft 3 warden. I've seen some people guessing it could be a shaman or a warlock. If the expansion is bringing a holy angel class, the Paladin, then it could make sense to have the other class be an evil demon-based class. Some kind of demon summoner maybe? Like the original Vijayrai mages in Diablo lore. They were known as the Spirit Clan because they were summoning what they thought were spirits into the world, but no. They just didn't know what demons were at the time because they were summoning demons. But because it's the Skovos Isles, a lot of Amazon hype is starting to build up, and if the new class is not an Amazon, I'd go far as to recommend to Blizzard to outright tell us, like in January, that the new class is not an Amazon. Now, if you don't own Vessel of Hatred, buying Lord of Hatred will also get you Vessel of Hatred for free. So for $40, you would get Vessel of Hatred and Lord of Hatred. If you already purchased Vessel of Hatred, then as a consolation prize, you get a cosmetic pet. And given how much those pets go for in the shop, Now the story of the expansion sounds like we are going to have our final fight against Mephisto. We're actually going to kill him this time, unlike in Vessel of Hatred. And maybe we'll get Diablo in there. There's no indication that I can tell anywhere that we will. Not in the multiple videos they released, not in the press release. I don't know anymore. I thought we were going to beat Mephisto in Vessel of Hatred, and then Diablo would show up at the end to tease taking him on an expansion too. Now, I don't know. Maybe he's not going to show up at all. Some people think that this monster here in the gameplay trailer is Diablo. I mean, yeah, he kind of looks like Diablo 3 Diablo, but kind of looks more like the mini Diablos we fight. What are they, like the Shade of Diablo or Shadow of Diablo? I doubt we're going to have giant Eldritch Abomination Mephisto and then a little baby Diablo. He is his little brother, but come on, he ain't that little. Now, something interesting we do know about the story is, quote, the Wanderer must embrace an old foe long believed to be dead. Lilith returns, her prophetic last words echoing true, forcing a perilous alliance bound by necessity rather than trust. With time and allies running out, the Wanderer is in a desperate race to stop Mephisto before hatred reshapes the world forever. So Lilith is back, and I really hope that Lilith is returning more metaphorically than literally. Otherwise, her death at the end of the base game is completely undermined, and the emotional gravitas of that scene is just completely dead. Apparently more dead than Lilith. Now, if she's just somehow manifesting from beyond the grave, like through us because of the blood petal connection, that plotline wasn't resolved, it's obviously been leading to something more Lilith-related, you know, that makes sense, that's acceptable, but like if she respawns in any way and she's like walking the world again and it's just like, hey, yeah, you know, the base game story didn't matter. But in addition to that, we're getting overhauled endgame with war plans that let us tailor our endgame progression. Sounds like we're finally getting our meta progression system that lets us juice endgame content to customize, challenge, and reward. The war plans also add skill trees to all endgame activities. This is the kind of stuff that we see in other live service aRPGs, and I'm glad we're finally getting this in Diablo as well. Helps with retention, helps with giving us more to do in the endgame. But wait, there's more. We're also getting the return of the Horadric Cube. You have quite a treasure there. Plus, set bonuses are coming in the form of little objects that we put inside a talisman. This seems similar to the Diablo 3 talisman system that was scrapped before launch. It was going to be a charm inventory. Instead of keeping your Diablo 2 charms in your inventory, it would be a separate inventory just for charms. But Last Epoch does this with idols. So it looks like you're kind of repurposing that idea and making it a set item inventory. Plus, we're getting loot filters finally. Plus, the skill tree overhaul, a major rework that includes new skill variants for every class. There's going to be a level cap increase, so we'll be getting more skill points to allocate as well. We get some glimpses of the updated sorcerer's skill tree, and it's looking good. Seems we can now put up to 12 points into a skill, and there's lots more connections, lots more choices to make. We're also getting new activities in the way of echoing hatred. Sounds like some kind of endgame wave-based challenge, and I think this is going to be Diablo 4's take on Diablo 3's Echoing Nightmares, which was a fun and good addition to the game. And we're getting literal fishing, not Great Rift fishing, actual fishing with a fishing pole and fish. I cannot believe it. I just hope it's a cozy system that we do not need to interact with for optimal play. Like, I don't mind it being there for people who like that kind of stuff, but if I have to go fishing because that's the optimum strategy to farm XYZ, I'm not going to be happy. Now, here's some weird stuff. This timeline graphic says the launch of the expansion is in April. It says Season 12 and new collab in March, and then for February, it's got something smudged out with a holy light effect. And that definitely says Season 12. Like, it literally is just a copy-paste saying Season 12, right? It perfectly fits. So, what? Then there's a dot between February and March, probably a seasonal event like the Lunar New Year event. In 2026, the Lunar New Year is on February 17th, so that makes sense. But that blurred out February is just bizarre. It could just mean the PTR for Season 12? Because the Reliquary for Season 11 ends in March, so it's not like Season 12 can start early. Pretty sure there's like consumer regulations that would mean if you bought the, you buy the thing, you expect to have this amount of time. They can't just suddenly remove days from you. Then again, it's also weird to launch an expansion in the middle of the season, right? It's like Season 12 starts, then a month later we're getting the expansion. Wouldn't you want to start the season at the same time as expansion launch? So there's just a lot of weirdness afoot here. How do you folks interpret all this? Overall, though, Lord of Hatred is looking like a huge expansion compared to Vessel of Hatred. And it kind of makes me wonder, is this the last D4 expansion? Is this the going away party? Are they just going all out, putting in all the features they wanted to, because after this they're moving on to Diablo 5, no expansion 3. Now, as for the Paladin and Season 11, it seems people who have been playing have been happy. I haven't seen one negative comment about the Paladin from anyone who has been playing the Paladin. We are still super early into the season. Obviously, more people will be playing this weekend, and that's also why I don't want this video to be my review of Season 11 yet. I'm recording this basically after one full day of playing, right? It launched late Thursday night, I played into the morning, slept, played more on Friday, then had to start working on this video, so, you know, roughly 1 full day of playing. I'm not going to give a review yet. My first impression is positive. I'm having a blast. I made it to Torment 4. I'm loving Paladin. It's already my favorite class. I have so much nostalgia tied up in it. Just running my Hammered in, I was able to do that as of level 5. It was awesome. And I think the changes Blizzard made post-test server for Season 11 really saved what was going to be really a growing pain adjustment season. And it made it into something that, while still being an adjustment season, it's a fun season nonetheless. I had a thrilling Gamba Slam experience with Sanctification where I nearly ruined my weapon, but ended up perfecting it. I had, like, the Sanctification result re-rolled one of my attributes. And when I realized that could happen and I saw it, my heart sank. And I'm like, no, I bricked my only good weapon right now. But it actually removed the one bad stat that I had and turned it into a great stat. There's other little touches as well if you pay attention, like they redid the existing music to be more heavenly themed. It's just like a nice little touch that feeds into the whole divine intervention, Paladin is here theme. Oh, and starting with all the waypoints unlocked felt so good. Some folks are even finding new mythic prankster dungeon sigils. If you happen to be lucky enough to get one of these, we weren't, but if you are, you can get like a purple goblin guaranteed in that dungeon, and you can get some mythics to drop. So congrats to those of you who got this. It's very rare. Paladin is probably overpowered. There's numbers on the Paragon board, like multipliers that are higher than other classes are allowed to have. We'll find out within the next week if it's ridiculously broken like the Spiritborn was. I doubt it though, because what made the Spiritborn millions of times stronger, literally millions of times stronger, was due to bugs. So we'll see. But it was just nice to start a season and play a class, and there were no build guides to follow. And it was just like, I was making my own build, going in blind, figuring out the right synergies to work out. You know, I wanted to go a Hammered in. I didn't care. I was making a Hammered in work, god damn it, and I made it work, and I got to Torment 4, and later today I'll have a video for those who, a lot of people were asking me about the build that I was running, so I'm making a video talking through my build for those who want to run that same build. It can get you to Torment 4. But I do encourage you folks, try to experiment on your own first. There is a joy in playing games blind. If you get stuck, if you get frustrated, then turn to help. But you know, Diablo's not it's a very easy game. And tip for Sanctification, remember to use up the Sanctifications you run into before you hit level 60, because you cannot use them after 60. There's a difference between pre and post 60 Sanctification. Once you're 60, the Sanctification materials you get, they're a consumable, but the random Sanctifications that you run into pre-60, it is use it or lose it once you find it. Also be sure to only sanctify an item after you have added sockets, your tempers, after you've changed aspects, basically anything you want to do to the item, masterworking, do that before Sanctification, because once you have sanctified, the item is now unmodifiable. Not a big deal pre-60, but once you're 60 and you have a piece of gear that you probably want to keep for a while that you're going to sanctify, yeah, you know, finish crafting on it first. And something that a lot of people haven't actually noticed, probably because they're playing Paladin, the way we progress through the skill tree is different now. Your core skill unlocks after just 1 skill point. You don't have to put 2, and this trend continues. You don't have to invest so much earlier into the skill tree just to unlock later skills. So you also have all your skill slots unlocked as of level 1. So we just have more freedom in building our character in the early game. Now folks, if you are not playing Paladin this season and are wondering what class to play, check out my tier list video on the best classes. And if you want to see what build I used to level my Paladin from 1 to 60, I got a video on that went out yesterday. And again, later today will be my post 60 video. And stay tuned for my ultimate guide to Season 11, hopefully coming out tomorrow. That should talk through Sanctification and the divine gifts and best strategies to level and all that. Moving on to Last Epoch news, we got this week the real roadmap. Like, the last roadmap was just a prank, bro. Here is the glorious, true roadmap. And it's got all the juicy details we want from a roadmap. Of course, however, we should keep in mind that plans are subject to change. So just because they've said these things, do not hold them to it. Otherwise, we're going to get more roadmaps that don't say anything. But as of now, this is what's being planned. Season 4, Shattered Omens, begins on March 26th. That's a much longer wait than people hoped for, about 7 months since Season 3, but we'll talk about that later. The seasonal mechanic will be Omen Windows, a new random encounter in which you'll fight waves of enemies in a circle, ending with a boss. Rewards include new runes of corruption as well as time glass fragments. Runes of corruption are a new item that will Gamba Slam an item to modify it unpredictably, possibly making it awesome, possibly ruining it. So, you know, we're familiar with these mechanics now across multiple aRPG. As for time glass fragments, these are a multi-use currency that can be used to directly trade for specific items, but can also be used to add echo chains to your echo web. Echo chains will be a group of sequential echoes. When they appear in your echo web, you'll see right away all the links that exist between them. Generally, all echoes in a chain revolve around a specific mechanic, and the final echo in the chain tends to be the most rewarding one. We're also getting corrupted altars, a feature we'll learn more about in the future. We're also getting 2 new rogue skills. First is Shadow Rend, which works with melee or bow. It's a high-impact, high-cost skill that has an initial strike that then leaves behind a shadow of yourself that later does a stronger attack after a delay. Then Bladestorm is being moved from the Umbral Blades skill tree to be built into its own skill entirely. You throw your spinning blades to a location. There will be general rogue and spellblade updates as well. For Season 5, no release date, but end of October seems likely if it'll be another 7 months after Season 4. The season mechanic is called Rage of Morditas. It'll feature a new endgame boss, Morditas, who is a demigod. There'll be a new Paladin skill called Radiant Lance that shoots a focused beam of light out from your shield. There will be improvements to the Merchant's Guild and Circle of Fortune, plus new unique and set items. Then the expansion Oribus. This will be the PS5 launch of the game. The expansion will be free for all existing owners of Last Epoch, and it'll include the final 2 chapters of the campaign. Also new endgame and pinnacle bosses, an update to the Monolith of Fate to include corruption tiers and etched timelines, new unique and set items, and this is where we'll be getting these skill sigils we've been teased about from so long ago. The system is greatly expanded from then and has been in development for more than a year already. Last Epoch's skill system is the best part of the game and best in genre, so I'm excited to see how skill sigils expand on this. So altogether, juicy roadmap, lots of great stuff coming in the future. Yes, it's unfortunate that compared to other seasonal aRPGs, we get fewer seasons per year in Last Epoch. And whenever they've been trying to speed up the pace, it's resulted in a smaller season, right? Season 3. Now, part of this delay may be because EHG confirmed they are coordinating more closely with PoE developer GGG to avoid releasing a new Last Epoch season around the same time as a PoE content update. But ultimately, I think all of this just points to it being a mistake to have tried to chase the same live service seasonal model of the top dogs. You know, Grim Dawn was a very successful game by just focusing on releasing a one-time purchase game and then subsequent expansions, right? Grim Dawn entered early access in 2013, full release in 2016. They released an expansion in 2017, a second expansion in 2018, and now they've had a third expansion in the works for so long, it keeps getting feature creeped and feature creeped and feature creeped. Hopefully it's releasing in 2026. Had EHG followed a similar path, just combining all the updates that they do in 1 year, right? Instead of trying to go for like 3 seasons a year, just combine all of those updates into one big expansion. Instead of selling cosmetics, you just sell that expansion. I think they would have had a profitable post-launch. GGG just sets such an impossible standard with their seasonal content updates. And Last Epoch is a game that is, its audience crossover is most closely with Path of Exile, so it's going to be the biggest point of comparison. And trying to keep up with GGG just puts so much pressure on EHG. And in their attempt to keep up, they have scaled up faster than their budget allowed. GGG grew slowly over time, but EHG grew the size of its studio comparatively rapidly, and employee salaries are your biggest expense as a business. So hopefully the influx of cash from Krafton will now give EHG the cushion it needs to play catch-up. go through these growing pains with that buffer, get all the new employees trained up, right? Because when you onboard a whole bunch of people at once, you're not going to be operating right away at full capacity. It takes time. So hopefully they're going to get the time to turn into the well-oiled machine that they want to be and start cranking the content. And for those worried about AI, because of Krafton, EHG has clarified that there are no plans for AI-generated assets for the game. Krafton is adopting AI for back-end processes like task tracking, not for content creation. Then in Path of Exile news, the Last of the Druids update released yesterday in PoE2, and we have a free weekend going on right now. Do be sure to try out this game, it's great. Not only do we get the Druid, we also got a surprise third ascendancy for the Sorceress, the disciple of Varashta, a sort of build-your-own summoner class, and I love the flavor here. You can summon up to 3 different Jinn, a Fire Jinn, a Water Jinn, and an Assassin Jinn. You can be a pure summoner, letting your Jinn do the damage, or you can use your Jinn as a support for yourself. The Fate of the Vol League mechanic launched as well, and it sounds like it's really useful to engage with in the early game from the start. I always like when the League mechanics are something that is useful right away and not something that you're going to be like, okay, this is a waste of time, I only interact with it later on. I'm hearing great things about the Druid, very smooth campaign experience, especially on Wolf. I'll finally have a chance to play myself tomorrow on stream. Do come by and watch. I'll be making a Wolf Druid. The Druid's Oracle Ascendancy looks insanely powerful, but probably not as a League starter, so I think I'm going to go Shaman as my starter. The servers were slammed during launch yesterday. The devs even had to take them down for a brief time, but everyone seems to be loving the update, and the performance improvements they've made seem to really help those with lower-end systems. For those who have played, what are your thoughts on the update? Sound off in the comments. And right before the launch of the big update, we got a surprise patch note giving a big buff to Rage. You basically lose Rage at half the rate you used to, losing only 5 instead of 10 Rage per second, and doubling the buffer as well for you to maintain your Rage from only 2 seconds to 4 seconds, a nice and comfortable 4 seconds. So it's just so much easier to maintain Rage now, which makes the Bear Druid all the more inviting. Essence of Horror got a 40% nerf, expected, it was best in slot before. And in an interview with PC Games N, PoE2 director Jonathan Rogers reconfirmed that the full 1.0 launch of the game may not include all 12 classes. It would be ideal, but he thinks it's unlikely to happen at this point. What they do want is to have all the ascendancies for all the classes that are released. He went on to say, quote, "I don't think it's as important to have all the classes as having the full campaign and the end game good and balanced, right? And all this other stuff, I think the game could survive with 10 classes as opposed to 12. I think that would be fair to say that it's a full game experience there." He did add that it would be bad to launch the game without swords, so good news there. But how do you folks feel about that? Do you agree that it's not as important to have all the classes? I agree with Jonathan myself, but sound off in the comments with how you feel. In a separate interview with FRVR, Jonathan said that rare icons on the map degraded the experience and that he regrets ever adding the feature. He said, quote, "It sucked so much because it meant the game was just playing the minimap, like you never even saw anything. It honestly, I feel like really degraded the experience of exploration and stuff. So yeah, we don't want to do that again." The change they did implement is that when you found all checkpoints on a map and killed the boss, only then will the rares appear on your minimap, just so that you don't have to scrounge around to figure out if there's another rare or two somewhere. Now, while I agree with the logic here, I thought the main reason for the rare icons being added to begin with had more to do with the map layouts being difficult to navigate, so we were already playing the minimap. And checkpoints I thought were just a temporary solution to help with map navigation, but now it seems they're permanent and we have to fish for them. So I'm a bit skeptical about how this will work out, but what do you folks think? Then in some news about the Game Awards, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 was the big winner this week, setting a record with 9 wins, all on an alleged budget of only $10 million. Expedition 33 won Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Indie Game, Best Debut Indie Game, Best RPG, and Jennifer English won Best Performance for her role in the game. The only thing they didn't win was Best Audio Design, which went to Battlefield 6, which baffles me because audio is a critical part of gameplay in Expedition 33. As a thank you to the community, the devs of Expedition 33 released a thank you update that is full of free content. Hades 2 won Best Action Game, and Silksong won Best Action Adventure. I'll go over a couple quick highlights from the event. The crazy statue that we spoke about last week, not Elden Ring as I predicted, but actually Larian's new game, Divinity. And they had the most absolutely horrific, disgusting trailer that made Diablo look like a children's game. Can't wait to see more about Divinity. We got a teaser trailer for Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic, being led by Casey Hudson, the game director on the Mass Effect trilogy, as well as Knights of the Old Republic. But as per industry insider Jason Schreier, this studio just formed this year, which means this game isn't releasing anytime before 2030, at the earliest. We got the announced trailer of Total War Warhammer 40k, and actor David Harbour is involved in the project. He'll be voicing a character. This is bound to be the best-selling Total War game ever. A new Tomb Raider game was announced, Legacy of Atlantis, which looks like a remake of the original Tomb Raider, but with Lara Croft from the reboot trilogy. I like that she has that classic iconic outfit. Now, there were a couple games presented at the Game Awards by Wizards of the Coast that I'd like to call out in greater detail, as I got to actually attend a virtual presentation and Q&A with the devs. The first was a surprise reveal of a Dungeons & Dragons themed game made by a studio from my hometown of Montreal. It's called Warlock, and it looks really cool. It's a single-player, third-person, immersive action-adventure where you play a warlock, and you'll use your magic to fight enemies, but also solve challenges in the world. Creative use of magic is going to be a big part of the game, allowing for lots of lateral thinking, because the same spells used to fight monsters will also be used for traversals and other kinds of interactions. I really look forward to seeing actual gameplay of this, which is coming this summer. You'll be playing as a specific character in this one with a specific story. Her name is Katri. She's a lifelong warrior who became a warlock, and it won't have like a branching narrative or moral choices. It's not that kind of game. It's a specific story. Your agency as a player will be in how you explore the world and how you put together your character's build. It does not follow any D&D rule sets, but there will be familiar things for D&D players to recognize since they're building off of 50 years of lore. But the game is totally approachable to players unfamiliar with D&D. Warlock is set to release in 2027, and they actually sent me a box with the scroll inside of it. And it says, "Power looks good on you, to hells with the cost." There's some script here. I recognize this as Draconic. I looked up the Draconic font and I could translate this over here. And there exist words in the history of D&D that we know correspond to specific English words. And these Draconic words seem to be saying soar, shadow, go to. It could be telling us to like soar to the Shadowfell maybe? Shadowfell, where there's the Raven Queen. I love the Raven Queen in the Shadowfell, by the way. So I'd love if it turns out to be that. Because we also do see kind of like feather motifs in the trailer. Otherwise, saying to hells. Dungeons & Dragons has 9 hells, so you wouldn't say to hell, you would say to hells. But the implication of a cost and hell could be pointing to the Warlock's patron being a devil. But then the script is in Draconic, so it's dragons, and then maybe it's the Shadowfell, so who knows? Then Wizards of the Coast also showed off Exodus, an upcoming action-adventure sci-fi RPG set in a brand new sci-fi universe that's being worked on by some Mass Effect alumni, and honestly this game looks like it really has the potential to be the new Mass Effect. It takes place in the far future. Humans have fled from a dying Earth in Ark ships and landed in the Centauri star cluster. You play as June, who begins as a lowly salvager, with a genetic mutation that lets you interact with special alien technology. Throughout the story, you become the champion of your people and the only hope to avoid the destruction of your homeworld. There's a ton of RPG systems, there's a constellation skill tree, you can upgrade abilities, weapons, customize your combat suit. It's all about building synergies and min-maxing your build, and a big part of your build is your companions. You build up a team of companions, each with their own personalities, their likes, their dislikes, there's romance options, and your choices matter. It's very much an RPG through and through. You can't make everyone happy, so some companions are going to be better at different kinds of gameplay as well. You can adopt different play styles. The game does support stealth gameplay if you want that, but you can also just kick down doors and shoot dudes in the face, whatever you want. And the dev team wants to honor hard sci-fi, but in an accessible way. They describe time as an antagonist. Time dilation plays a big role in the story and the gameplay. They really want it to capture the scale of space travel, and you get to see how the decisions you make play out over the course of generations due to time dilation. They even got Matthew McConaughey to voice an NPC, and yes, Interstellar was one of their inspirations. Exodus is set for release in early 2027, and I'm looking forward to this one as well. Then in some industry news, Netflix is trying to buy Warner Brothers for a deal worth $83 billion, and they apparently care so little about the gaming branch of Warner Brothers that they didn't even factor them into their evaluation of the company's worth. A few different companies had been bidding on Warner Brothers, including Paramount, but Netflix's deal won out. Now it has to pass US regulatory inspection. Warner Brothers owns the rights to Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and the DC Universe. They own the studios that made the Batman Arkham series, Mortal Kombat, Hogwarts Legacy. But in a recent investor call, the Netflix co-CEO told investors about the gaming branch of Warner Brothers, quote, "We actually didn't attribute any value to that from the get-go because they're relatively minor compared to the grand scheme of things. So, high hopes for how much Netflix will prioritize making games in those IPs, huh? Given how ruthless they are in canceling good shows after 1 or 2 seasons if they aren't Stranger Things level successes, I'm sure they won't look at the exorbitant cost of AAA game development and shut down any studio that does not release a Game of the Year contender. But hey, maybe the deal won't go through. Paramount Skydance actually made a hostile bid worth $108 billion to buy Warner Brothers out from under Netflix. We know that Warner Brothers had previously rejected Paramount's offers. Now, Paramount is doing this hostile bid by declaring this publicly for all shareholders to hear, which could force Warner Brothers' hand to accept their deal. We saw this happen with Elon Musk taking over Twitter. That was a hostile bid because Twitter's board of directors did not want to accept this offer. Hooray for monopolies! What a wonderful cyberpunk dystopia we live in. Except I was promised synthwave and neon lights. Now folks, if you missed last week's video about how every aRPG is on fire right now, do check that one out because that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.